While most of next year's basketball roster looks like it's just about set, there are still two glaring holes. Let's take a look at some of the targets that can fill them.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one and welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Sonny Verma. You can find me in all your favorite social medias. Do a quick search for Locked On Illini or right here at the Sonny V. I always enjoy the everyday discourse. Speaking of all day, everyday Illini, just remember this is the only Illini channel that produces at least a half hour's worth of content every single day. So if that's your cup of tea, make sure you hit the like button on this video. I promise it's a good one. And you're subscribed so you don't miss any videos moving forward. Today, it's Friday, so I kind of wanted to recap and just kind of go over some of the transfer portal targets that next year's Illini team still could be going after. As I mentioned all week long, essentially, when you kind of take a look at this Illinois roster, for the most part, it's like 80% set. We have 3/5 of a starting lineup. We have a couple bench role players, but there's certainly two glaring holes when it comes to that starting lineup that I just mentioned, and that's at shooting guard and that's at small forward. Now, again, I'm going to move forward and talk about a couple of the transfer targets, but two of the main ones, 1A and 1B, you guys already know of, especially if you're an everydayer of this channel. 1A is Will Riley. Of course, I just talked about him on yesterday's episode, and he still has to make a decision on whether he's going to stay in the NBA draft or if he's going to come back to college basketball. But first and foremost, I just want you to know that obviously is option A. Option B is Dame Sarr. Dame Sarr is a young Italian player out in Europe right now. He's going to be playing at the Hoop Summit sometime this weekend. I believe it's on Saturday night. He's the number one priority for Illinois right now, and they're hoping that they're going to be able to nab him sometime in the next week. I mean, it could take longer, who knows, especially if he has a good Saturday night, you could consider that other blue bloods are going to come sniffing around. And then there's also the possibility that Dame himself might go to the NBA. So that we're kind of in wait and see mode with that. But having said all that, there are still college players that Illinois is going to be at least kicking the tires on. The first one I'm going to talk about is, I've already referenced him before, and that's obviously Ian Jackson, the former 5-star top 10 recruit from North Carolina. A quick little update. They did have a Zoom call, Illinois and Ian, and Illinois is working very hard to try to get Ian to come to Champaign at some point, maybe next week. Again, this is an Orlando Antigua recruitment. Orlando recruited Ian to Kentucky a couple years ago. He couldn't quite nab him then, and so this is kind of a round two for Ian. But being completely open and honest with you, as soon as Ian Jackson entered the transfer portal, everyone suggested that he was going to go home to St. John's. And it's very similar to what happened when Zavonimir entered the transfer portal, right? Immediately, all your favorite content creators, all the biggest predictors, all said that Big Z to Illinois. Seemed like there was, maybe even a deal set in place. That could very well be the case with Ian Jackson as well. But in this case, it won't be Illinois. It really does sound like he's going to be going to St. John's. He's visiting St. John's this weekend. I believe it's on Sunday. And if I got to be honest with you, I'm going to be shocked if he does not leave that visit committed. So I'm not feeling optimistic about Ian coming to Illinois, but it's a guy I talked about sometime this week. So I want to give you guys a little update. The next guy on my list is Jamir Watkins, and he is a Florida State guard, 6'7", 210 pounds, and he's a kid who I think would fit perfectly on Illinois' team next year. And you know who I think also agrees with me? It's Brad Underwood and this coaching staff, because last year, if you recall, Brad and the staff was very hard after Jamir. This past year, he averaged 18.4 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists on 43% shooting, shooting 32% from three-point range. Now, usually when Brad Underwood's recruiting a certain offensive player, you expect those field goal percentage numbers and certainly that three-point percentage number to be a little bit higher. But Jamir is not really the prototype of what Brad usually goes after, or at least maybe that's not fair. Jamir is what Terrence Shannon Jr. was 2 years ago, and that's what I'm talking about. Just a big, again, 6'7", 210 pounds, very physical. Jamir is put your head down type of player who likes to attack the rim. He's very, as I mentioned before, he's very physical. He's hard to guard. And he provides another thing that this Illinois team is lacking, and that's defensive prowess. He's very good at switching on defense, and I do think him paired with a Kylan Boswell, paired with a Ty Rodgers, can absolutely cause havoc for opposing teams. Now, I did hear some troubling things about Jamir, and that's from a friend of the show, Greg Waddle from Sleepers Media. He told me that Jamir and Dusty May have a relationship, and they've had a relationship for years. So much so that Jamir seems to look at Dusty kind of as a big brother. And so, Greg is pretty plugged in with the Michigan program. And it sounds like he's insinuating that Michigan has the money for a guy like Jamir Watkins. And Jamir is going to cost you about $3 million, especially in today's market. Now, this is incredible because obviously Michigan's already gotten the commitment, if he decides to come back from the NBA draft, of Yaxel Lendenberg, who was my favorite player in the portal. And reportedly, Yaxel is going to make $4 million. Now, this is one of those issues, and I'm just going to, before I get on to the next player, I just need to address this. There's going to be people in the comment section saying Dusty May is running circles around Brad Underwood with recruiting. Look, my personal, Sonny Verma's top two targets would have been Yaxel and Jamir Watkins, and here they are both committing to the same school. Why isn't Illinois ponying up? That's my point. This is no longer like yesteryear where it's just building coaching relationships and your recruiting was based on how good you were at, recruiting. No, now financials are involved. And apparently Greg says that even if Yaxel decides to come back to Michigan has the money to both afford Jamir and Yaxel. And you're talking about $7 million committed to do two players. This is one of those situations where, because it's become the wild, wild west, and we've seen, in particular on the football side, that the Michigan donors are simply sick and tired of not winning, and they're just going all out and investing a lot of money into the NIL and getting these fantastic players. Illinois has a decent amount of money, but they don't have, at least as of right now, apparently this Michigan money. And BYU is another team that simply won't be outbid for a player. So, again, Jamir, I'm not very optimistic now upon hearing that he would be coming to Champaign. But the fact that we did recruit him last year and there does seem to be some sort of relationship, I am hopeful that at least we're in the picture. Another kid I like a lot is Cedric Coward. Now, again, stop me if you've heard this before. Cedric is going to be trying to make the NBA. So there's a possibility that he sticks in the NBA draft, but there's also the possibility, and I think a better possibility, that he comes back to college. Cedric is a 6'6", 190-pound shooting guard. And when I say buckets, Cedric Coward is buckets. I hope I'm saying that last name right. If I'm not, I apologize. Cedric started his first two seasons at Eastern Washington, and last year he only played 6 games for Washington State. So he should be able to get a medical redshirt. But as I mentioned, buckets. That's what Cedric does. For his career, he's averaging almost 39% from three-point range. He's a pure scorer and someone who I think quite honestly fits perfectly with this Illinois team. And if I had to do my power rankings, he would be right up there for potential target. We all remember 2 years ago how efficiently Marcus Domask ran that booty ball offense. Cedric is a player who has tape doing exactly that. And so Cedric is a name to keep an eye out on. It's someone who, again, I hope that we can at least make some sort of connection with. I don't have any insight on this one. I don't know if Illinois has reached out or if Cedric's camp has reached out. But again, this is just one of those situations where Cedric, while his main focus is going to be on the NBA, I don't know how much of a hurry he's going to be in to decide on his future college destination. But definitely keep an eye out on that. And lastly, it was reported pretty late Thursday that Illinois had expressed interest in Jamal Jones, a kid born in Chicago, and he currently plays for the Cal State Bakersfield Roadrunners. Now, when I say has expressed interest, what does that mean? We don't really know. Is Is it a lot of interest? Is it like bring you on campus, let's get you signed interest? Or is it, hey, let's introduce ourselves via phone call type of interest? I don't know. The reason I'm bringing his name up is because of the teams interested, Illinois is clear head and shoulders above the other options that he has. So if Illinois does have real interest, I do think that they can probably lock this one down. Jamel averaged 18.9 points per game last year on 3.6 rebounds, 2.1 assists on 48% from the field and 35% from the 3-point range. The thing is, I just got done watching Jamel tape right before I started recording this, and I like Jamel's game. I absolutely do, but I do have some sort of reservations on how it's going to translate to the Big Ten. It takes a long time to get his shot off. And when you're talking about the athletes that the Big Ten Conference does have, I don't think Jamel's going to be a guy who comes into the Big Ten Conference and average double-figure points. I think if Jamel is one of those pieces where Brad's like, hey, I want to make sure, I have a good scoring option at my 8th or 9th guy, then sure, go ahead, proceed. Jamel, despite the tape not looking as good when it comes to his shooting form or whatnot, he's produced. He's produced at every single level he's been at. So, this could be one of those Moneyball type of situations where the results don't necessarily match the eye test. That period is going to be over today. And so now you're going to start hearing about Illinois talking to certain players, and we'll hopefully have an update for you early sometime next week. Hopefully there's going to be at least some sort of player visits, because that kind of gives you the hint on what might or might not happen. Again, Illinois is going to try hard to get Ian Jackson to get onto campus next week. What we all have to watch for is to see if Ian leaves the St. John's campus where he's visiting this weekend without a commitment. If that happens, then all of a sudden you're trusting Orlando to go do what he gets paid big bucks to do. And quite honestly, I think he can do it. Let me know, of the players I interested, is there one that interests you more than the other? Are any of them exciting to you? Are they all lukewarm to you? Is there another guy that I have not mentioned that you want me to look at? Let me know in the comment section. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. If you're enjoying the show so far, please show your support by hitting that like button and making sure you're subscribed. I'm hoping on YouTube to hit 3,000 by the time my 1-year anniversary here at Locked On happens on May 16th. And more importantly, if you have any extra time, again, this show is completely free. I do it for you each and every single day. One ask I might have is, if you are a YouTube watcher, do me a favor, if you can find us on your favorite audio platform and hit that download button and hit that subscribe button there. And really do me a favor, if you can hit that 5-star review, I would sincerely appreciate it. And it makes my life easier in continuing to produce this content for you each and every day. Again, the only Illini channel out there doing that. Let's talk a little football. So basketball's in the news because of the transfer portal, but low key, Bret Bielema is building one heck of a recruiting class this season. Right now, as of this recording, we're talking about the 10th in the country, ladies and gentlemen. Illinois football right now has the 10th best recruiting class in the entire country. Now, is it going to stay that way? No, probably not. Eventually, when some of the bigger programs and the blue bloods start getting more commitments, Illinois should fall a little bit, but there's a realistic chance that this recruiting class could end up being in maybe the mid-20s. And if you are a longtime Illinois football follower, you'll know even that in itself is arguably more impressive than winning 10 games like Bret Bielema did with the Illini last year. So It's all kind of the momentum continues this week. And Illinois is going to continue to try to work on that momentum, bringing in 9 players for official visits this very week. And those 9 players in the list of descending order of their player rankings are Max Sutter, J.C. Anderson, Kai Pritchard, Tony Williams, Messiah Tilson, Elmiron Thomas, Marlon Bright, King Liggins, and Tony Balanganay. Oh, I'm so bad with names. My everydayers in here know I'm so incredibly bad with names, so I apologize if I butchered that one. The main one I'm obviously going to be looking at, and not necessarily for a commitment, but a commitment at some point, is J.C. Anderson. J.C. practically has a second house in Champaign at this point. He's the 4-star, at least according to 24/7. He's got a 91 rating, the 154th overall player in the country, 10th best tight end in the country, and 3rd best player in the state. JC's got a lot of the best programs in the country going after him. You're talking about the Auburns, you're talking about North Carolinas, you're talking about Penn State. And the one common thing with JC's recruitment is he seems to keep coming back to Champaign. I already mentioned he's visited this place over a dozen times now. Another thing going for the JC recruitment is that one of his best friends from his high school team last year, wide receiver Braden Trimble, is now a standout freshman for Illinois for next year. And so you're hoping that during this visit, Braden who's already in camp, can kind of talk about the experiences that he's having. And who knows, maybe he can finally confirm what we're all hoping JC feels, and that's that he should be an Illini. Am I optimistic about this one? Not yet. Long term, yeah. I just think sometimes at some point you just have to follow the visits, right? As Jeremy Warner loves to say. The fact that he's visited us so many times, and he's gone to campuses everywhere at this point nationally, and he's been to all of them, and yet he still keeps coming back to Illinois. Lock it down, Bret. I don't think it's going to happen this weekend, but I can absolutely see it happening in the next couple months. The other guy I really like, and maybe Illinois is going to push to commit this weekend, is the kid whose name I unfortunately butchered just a minute ago. It's Tony Balanganay. He's a defensive line prospect from Palatine. This kid's an athlete, so much so that he also plays basketball. Tony is 6'4", 260 pounds. He's the 21st best recruit out of Illinois and currently rated 87 on 24/7 Sports. Again, Illinois was I believe they were the first Power 4 offer that Tony has had, and they've been super aggressive with him. They really do want to keep that caliber of players when that's so close to campus in Illinois, right? This was the type of recruitment that back in the day, Lovie Smith would have lost immediately just because he wasn't very good at keeping athletes from the state inside the state. I think Bret understands he needs to build a wall around the state, and this is not going to be an easy battle. Tony's gotten other offers from Michigan, Michigan State, Auburn, Kansas State, and Louisville. All big names, but the good thing, the positive spin, is that Tony doesn't have any other official visits lined up, or at least that he's announced. So maybe there's an opportunity this weekend for Bret and the staff to lock this one down. I certainly hope so. And lastly, the other one that I'm kind of keeping my eyes out on is Tony Williams, a linebacker out of, guess what? Yes, of course, the state of Florida, where Bret and this coaching staff have done a wonderful job of recruiting. Tony's 5'11", 215 pounds. He's rated 86 on 24/7 rankings. He's the 106th best prospect out of Florida. But again, if you understand high school football, you know that Florida pool is massively deep. Now, linebacker, Illinois has been fortunate enough to shore up a little bit, but I do think Bret understands that he probably still needs 1 or 2 more guys. And I can see him trying to want to lock down Tony at some point this weekend. Tony does have other official visits planned. On June 13th, it says here, he's going to UCF. On June 20th, he's going to SMU. Now, good, solid football programs, but obviously not at the caliber of what Illinois is at currently. And I'm hoping that with the enthusiasm and with the aggressive nature of Illinois' pursuit of Tony, that he's going to appreciate that, really have that feeling of being wanted. And hopefully he'll be committing sometime this weekend. Those are some of the guys that I've got my eyes out on this weekend. Again, those are the guys that I have my eyes on. Between these 9 guys, I really think Illinois can at least nab one of them, if not two. And if that were to happen sometime this weekend, look, there's no days off here at Locked On Illini. I promise you that if I get any sort of notification or a text message or anything like that about a certain player committing, I'll jump on live immediately here and give you my rough assessment about what that kind of player looks like and what it could mean for the program moving forward. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you won't miss anything. And finally today, I wanted to talk a few of you off the ledge. It seems that I think at least 4 or 5 of you have messaged me just on Friday morning this graphic that JR from the Big Ten Huddle created, and that's the On3 Big Ten power rankings in the transfer portal. And Illinois is currently dead last at 18. And notice I used the word currently. Number 18, Illinois, currently. The transfer portal is not over, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1 is Wisconsin. Number 2 is Michigan. And number 3 is Washington. And all for obvious reasons. They're bringing in a lot of transfer portal talent. Illinois, as of right now, has only, according to the transfer portal, brought in Zavonimir. Keep in mind, David Mirkovich is not considered a transfer portal addition. Also, I wanted to remind you guys that Illinois retained Thomas Lovovicic and they retained Kylan Boswell, 2 guys that, had they entered the transfer portal, would be top, in Tommy's case, top 3. In Kylan's case, probably top 30. And if we were to bring them in, Illinois would be a lot higher on this list. So the point is, it's April 11th, and quite honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter. I'm not even remotely panicking yet. We'll see what happens with the recruitment of a kid like Dame Sarr. We'll see what happens and who we're going to eventually place at that shooting guard position, at the 3 position next year. If we're talking late August or September and we have nobody there, sure, maybe it's time to start panicking. But right now, I continue to say that the best player on Illinois isn't even currently in the transfer portal, or we just have not heard of him yet. Now, that could change if all of a sudden it's Will Riley and he decides to come back to college. But I guess this is just a long-winded way of me saying, relax, don't worry. It's Friday. Go out, enjoy yourselves, have a nice drink, have a nice dinner. We've got a long off season ahead, and I promise I'm going to keep you updated each and every day right here on Locked On Illini. So on your way out, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. ILL. Love you guys.